Garden Fork Radio. It's what I call eclectic DIY. We talk about kind of random do-it-yourself home improvement topics, cooking, gardening, home repair, beekeeping, geeky computer stuff every once in a while, and kind of whatever comes across our laptop that we want to talk about. We're available on iTunes and also on the gardenfork.tv website. Also, Garden Fork has a video show as well. You can find it on YouTube, and you can also find it on iTunes. So welcome, and thanks for listening. A couple of things I wanted to talk about today. First of all, my forgetfulness. I forgot to schedule a time with Rick, my co-host, to do a show this week. And it's Friday, and I thought, we better get a show out there. iTunes rewards regular posting, and I think everyone looks forward to a show, or I think they do. At least some of you download the show, or whoever's listening. But anyway, it's just kind of Eric talking into the microphone. I am using the blue snowball mic, by the way, because we're up at the little weekend cabin. And I decided to keep this microphone up here for spontaneous recordings like this one. The other day, I was listening to the Root Simple podcast, and I consider them kind of kindred. I like what they talk about a lot, and they seem to have their act together a little bit more than I do, in that they can post things on a regular basis. But they were talking about a new toilet they got, and I just thought I have some thoughts about toilets, and if you want to listen to that, that's great. If you don't, maybe you want to forward to the next part of this thing. I don't know how to put chapter markers in or anything like that. I'm sorry. But they got a new high-efficiency toilet, and I have had some experience installing toilets and also putting in high-efficiency toilets as well. Couple of thoughts here. And I also, I verbalized this. Root Simple has a call-in phone number that you can leave viewer mail comments, and I called, and they played my comments on the air. I thought that was kind of funny. But like most things in life, with high-efficiency toilets, and those we mean that are flushing at 1.3 gallons or less, or have two different buttons on the toilet. One button is to flush just fluids, and the other button is to flush fluids and solids. And the one for just flushing fluids uses less water. And there's usually two buttons on the top there for that. Sometimes there's a number 1 on the other one and the number 2 on the other one. There's different little icons to denote that, kind of like in a airport IKEA symbolism kind of way. But you get what you pay for with high-efficiency toilets. If you've moved into a house, or your contractor has put in what's called contractor-grade toilets in the house, those are kind of generic, inexpensive toilets, and they could cause you problems going forward. The thing to think about here is maybe if you are replacing your toilet, is to spend a little bit more money and save yourself some headaches down the road. Recently, we had some friends over, and one of their children clogged up our toilet upstairs. And I was more worried about the kid being embarrassed because one of the parents was not pleased about this. And I was like, it's no big deal. I thought, I'll just run my snake in the toilet there and we'll unclog this, because a regular rubber plunger does not work very well on toilets, because the face of the toilet, the bottom of the tank, is kind of, I wouldn't say irregular, but it doesn't mate very well with the face of a sink plunger. I think you need a specific toilet plunger. But I had a regular plumbing snake, and I was like, I'll just snake this in there, And I realized that a regular snake kind of jumps around like a out-of-control snake in the bottom of your toilet. And I was like trying to, the snake has a cylinder which it feeds from, and you can spin that cylinder. It usually has a handle on the back, and you feed it out, and you basically make the cable turn and push in at the same time, and it winds its way into the pipe. Well, I could not get this thing up into the bends, elbows, or what you call them, of the bottom of the toilet. And when I finally pulled the snake out, it looked like I had scratched up the porcelain of the toilet. And I'm like, oh, great. I got to lay out X number of dollars for a new toilet because my friend's kid clogged it. And I was like, I'm just going to leave this for now, and I'm going to just think back on this. And so what I did was I went downstairs and I got my wet dry vac, and I vacuumed out as much water as I could. And then another friend of ours who was at the party came back to the dinner party with his toilet snake. And a toilet snake is the same as a regular snake, but it is encased, it's sleeved in about a 3-foot-long piece of pipe that has a 45 or 90 degree elbow at the bottom. And the bottom of the elbow is encased in what looks like garden hose. It's like a rubber coating. And what this does is it allows you to position the snake down at the bottom of the tank, at the bottom of the bowl, and turn it upwards such that when you push on the snake at the back end of it, it will bend at 90 degrees and shove it up into the elbow and then turn nicely. And the rubber coating on the outside protects the porcelain finish of the bowl. And with that, we were able to unclog this. And I just felt sorry for the kid because one of his parents was not happy about this. And I'm like, it's just a toilet. It's not the end of the world. But it did make me realize that, of course, the next time I was at the hardware store, I did buy a specific toilet snake. It wasn't the most expensive one. It was like a $10 snake. But I was like, well, now we have it to hopefully avoid that kind of thing. But I was really bummed out because I thought I've scratched the porcelain of the bottom of the bowl of the toilet. So once again, the next day, I turned off the valve that feeds the bowl of the tank of the toilet, flushed it so that the tank water drained, and then I took my wet dry vac and I sucked out all the water out of the bowl, and I took some soft scrub, which is it's basically like a wet rubbing compound with some chlorine mixed in with it. I think it's like an abrasive, like a wet kind of abrasive. Like a rubbing compound, really, is what it is. And I had a sponge, one of those soap sponges with that green kind of scrubby stuff on it, a green scrubber sponge, let's call that, high-tech word. And I went to work at the bottom of the bowl there, and I pretty much got all of the marks from the first snake off and out of the bowl. And then I wiped it off, and then I laid on some more of the rubbing. It's the soft scrub, which has bleach in it, sodium hypochlorite. And I moved it all around, and then I let it sit for a few minutes, and I scrubbed it again, and I managed to clean off all the scrape marks. And I was like, wow, I just saved a bunch of money, because I thought I was going to have to go out and buy a new toilet, because aesthetically, those scratches in the bottom of the bowl would not fly in Garden Fork Central here. So just a little thought about what to do to unclog your toilet. If you have some hints, it'd be good to hear from you. It's radio@gardenfork.tv is the email address for there. But going on, there are some misconceptions, let's just call them, about low flush, high efficiency toilets. And I just typed in high efficiency toilets into the search bar, and the second or third result that came up is from a company called Niagara Conservation. And I recognize them because about 5 years ago, they sent us some low flow shower heads for free. And they work really well. I still have them. So full disclosure, they did send us something for free. And I think we talked about them at that point. But they also make high efficiency toilets. They have one called the Stealth, which is a dual flush. And it can use 0.65 gallons per flush, which is pretty amazing. And considering the drought conditions in parts of our country, this is really something to consider. But they did have a document on their site about kind of like myths about high-efficiency toilets that can lead to blocked residential drains. And they had a couple of good points here. What really causes more of the problem is poor drain line construction after the waste leaves the toilet. You need to have a certain amount of pitch to any horizontal pipes, and I think in a lot of homes that might get neglected. And any of the toilets in the United States, from what I understand reading this, need to be able to move waste a distance of 26 feet with a single flush. Very interesting. But your pipe, your horizontal pipe, has to be pitched correctly. If it's not, and I have one of these badly pitched pipes in my house that I have to fix, you can get some problems with it. Another thing that helps high-efficiency toilets is the fact that there's a bathroom sink probably attached to that same drain very nearby, and also there's a bathtub or a shower that helps wash things down. If you have a very long horizontal pipe and you're getting clogging, don't immediately blame the toilet. It may very well be the pipe instead. So that was just kind of a thought there. So Eric's thoughts on toilets. Again, if you want to tell us what you think, it's radio@gardenfork.tv. We had a call-in number for a while, but not very many people called. So if people are interested in that, maybe I could reinstitute that. Maybe we could get a Google phone number or something like that. Just thinking. There you go. Couple of comments on some of our latest articles on the website. We were talking about wasp identification because my neighbors recently bought a house in the country, my city neighbors, and they sent me 2 pictures and they're like, what is this thing? There are bees flying in and out of it. And it was a paper wasp nest, which is also sometimes called umbrella wasps. And actually, the Root Simple people talked about this recently as well. So I posted some pictures on the site and wrote about it. And the thing to keep in mind is that paper wasps are, in general, if they're out of the way, just leave them be. They are actually good to have because they eat lots of bugs in your garden. And unless you disturb them, they generally will leave you alone. The most time that I encounter them is we have apple trees in the yard, and when the trees drop their apples, they get smashed by us walking or the lawnmower or something, or when they drop, they crack open, and wasps like apple mash. I don't know if it's the fermenting apple or it's the sugar in the apple that they're attracted to, but they love it. So you can accidentally step on one. Same thing with yellow jackets. They're also attracted to that. But Oregon Rick, you like, Rick, how I said Oregon? Let's kind of swallow the back part of that. You don't say Oregon, it's Oregon, all right? And Rick says, I also try to leave paper wasps alone. They generally cause no problems. I saw one attack and kill a caterpillar on one of my garden plants, and after witnessing that, they were welcome in my garden. Yellow jackets, not so much. I found a nest the hard way about 15 years ago while cutting some brush. 15 stings, and consider myself lucky to escape with so few. My nephew was hospitalized after hitting one with his tractor on his farm. They're not welcome in my garden. I hate to use any pesticides, so if I find a nest that's in the ground, most I've discovered seem to have been, I observe them at a distance, find the entrance, and then at night I carefully place a hose near the entrance. Cooler nights are best for that. And turn on the water and drown them. It works very well. To minimize the carnage, it's best to prevent nests from being established in the first place if you can. Yellow jacket queens will overwinter in compost piles and other garden debris. Then in early spring they come out and establish nests. I understand it takes about a month for the nest to be established with the tack squads of guard yellow jackets, basically. So I put out traps as soon as possible as the weather warms up in the spring, and I've been successful in trapping and eliminating a number of queens. I've not had a nest in and around the place for a while. Again, thanks for the post. So that was from Rick in Oregon. I actually had several honeybee hives in my yard here in the country, and I lost one of them to yellow jackets. The hive was not super strong, and honeybees have guard bees at the entrance, and the yellow jackets overwhelmed the guard bees and got into the hive. And they kill all the bees, and they take all the pollen. I don't know if they take the pollen. I know that they will take the nectar and honey that is in there. So I actually bought some yellow jacket traps from a beekeeping supply house. But then I moved my bees the next year, so I never used the trap. And I have it downstairs, and I'm wondering I should put it out there and try. What I've also noticed is when I'm in the garden in the early spring, is there are some larger yellow jackets buzzing around. There are also some wasps, by the way, that look like yellow jackets. Or wasps are actually I think are part of the wasp family. And I've paid attention to see where they're flying. And if I notice they're landing a lot in a particular area of the garden, I'll go over there and watch. And if they keep on coming back to the same spot and they disappear into the grass or under a rock or something, they're more than likely building a nest there. And you could intervene first by just whacking the yellow jacket as they come to land, if it is the queen. And queens are usually a little bit bigger. Or, as Rick suggests, you could water them at night and take care of it. So just kind of some thoughts there. If anyone else, you guys tried yellow jacket traps? I'd be interested in that. Most of the time you find yellow jackets when you're mowing the lawn and the mower goes across one and boom, it hits it. I've also found them because my Labradors will be retrieving the ball from somewhere in the yard or in the woods, and all of a sudden I see them kind of jump or they kind of paw at their face. And they don't seem to respond too terribly to the yellow jacket bites when they've gotten them, but when I notice they're doing that, I go over and see if that's a nest or not. And twice I found nests that way. It does take just a little observation, but it kind of makes you just kind of stand still for a minute and consider nature. So just a thought there. Our bacon grilled cheese episode was very popular. You can look at the analytics of the videos of people watch, and whenever I do something with bacon, more people watch. And I'm like, I'll just have to make some more bacon shows, But there's a bunch of stuff I want to share. But I got the idea from a number of people have made this grilled cheese sandwich that is encased in bacon and then fried. Actually, I pan fried it. But BuzzFeed Food is very good at creating kind of viral food videos. And they made one, which I saw, and it just kind of took off. And I'm like, all right, let's make that for Garden Fork. And it worked pretty well. Recently, we had a post on the site about strawberry pests. And we got some very interesting answers from that. Our friend Wade from up in Canada sent me a couple photos and talked about his strawberry plants, which he successfully transplanted because the raised bed he was using wasn't working very well, and he moved it. But he noticed a caterpillar, and it looks like a translucent yellow caterpillar eating the strawberries, and he has a picture of one that is actually on the fruit of it. And I wrote back that I had no idea of this, but someone named Fab, F-A-B, wrote back and suggested that it's an armyworm, which is sometimes also called the beet armyworm. I'm not exactly sure this is what it is, but but by the looks of your worm, it's just getting started eating and it's not gotten the color of what it eats yet. Armyworms usually eat the green leaf of a plant. The one you caught just happens to be in transition, I guess. So what happens here is that armyworms take on the color of whatever food they're eating. So it's very interesting. All right. I'm not 100% sure it's the armyworm, just the first thing that came to my mind. You have to research what other bug or bird you need to attract your berry patch to eat these. By the sound of it, and by the work you've involved in taking care of your berries, if you want to stay organic, the next best thing is to go through the patch by hand, removing these pests. And it looks like from the photos that it is not a very it's in a raised bed, so it's not a very large strawberry bed. So you could go through it and just turn over the leaves. Wait, I'm giving you more work to do here. And manually pick off those armyworms and take care of that. So, I don't know. Very interesting there. Some other nice comments on the site. Let me see if I can get the computer to work here. Very nice. By the way, I'm going to edit this show in GarageBand, and I want to see what's happening with that. Mary Ellen read our post about making a compost bin out of pallets. It's a video as well, of course. And she said, "Thanks so much for explaining and demonstrating so clearly. I have pallets. They're prepped, but I was stuck as to the instruction. I now have a very clear idea of how to proceed." Cute dogs, by the way. "My 6.5-year-old completed farm camp and told me the soil is eroding from our country, and when it's gone, we're all going to die. So that's why I'm making a compost bin. We'll make soil and save the planet." There you go. Good for you. All right, just a couple of notes there. Again, if you want to hear about more Garden Fork stuff, you can sign up for our email newsletter. you can just send an email to news@gardenfork.tv, or in the show notes of this podcast, there is a link to sign up. If you're listening in iTunes, if you touch on the Garden Fork logo that is probably showing while this episode is playing, the show notes show up. You just kind of tap it once and all of a sudden there's these text notes and there'll be a link there to sign up. All right. Always like to hear from you guys. Again, the email address is radio@gardenfork.tv. So enjoy your holiday. It's 4th of July holiday. A salute to all the women and men in service right now. And thanks for listening. We'll see you later.